Russia's military held a big briefing this afternoon announcing the war had entered a second phase. We can make my camera a bit bigger if we're not playing Elden Ring. Thank you. Kablamo. Here's a summary of how Russia at this point in the war has depicted what it set out to do, why, and where we're at. Oh, by the way, Russia, in like 1 month, suffered more casualties and far more equipment loss than we did in Iraq and Afghanistan in 20 years combined. They've also lost more people and I think more equipment than they lost in their war in the Soviet war in Afghanistan, which did not last 1 month. So, you know, going great over there for them. As you can see, the lines of control have really not changed that much. The funniest thing for me is that they have barely managed to budge the line in the Donbass region, you know? Like, they've been closed from the north and the south, but in terms of moving through the most heavily defended portion, the one that you'd expect them to sweep through, yeah. Listen, fighting with Ukraine and their tractors is like fighting an army of necromancers, okay? As Russia loses tanks, Ukraine gets them, okay? Every tank lost by Russia is a tank towed away by a Ukrainian farmer to be brought back, you know? Anyway. First, the general said Russia had always intended only to liberate the Donbass. That's what it set out to do, of course. It had two options: fight a war in the east, but allow Kyiv to replenish its forces, or start off by knocking out Ukrainian military capacities across the country. Over a month of war, Russia has knocked out most of Ukraine's military capacities, the generals claimed. Keep in mind, everything being said here is from them. So can now move on to its next phase, which will be focused only on the east, which could involve heavy bombardment. Interesting. Russia had never intended to capture Kyiv, Kharkiv, and other cities, the general said. These are not setbacks, in other words. It's all part of the plan. Oh my god. Dude, they're such sore losers. Oh my god. Jesus. At least when the Taliban took over Afghanistan 6 hours after he left, like the American generals and Biden weren't like, yeah, we intended them to take over 6 hours after. Like, Jesus, just okay. And the plan was to distract Ukrainian forces while Russia, Donetsk, Luhansk made territorial gains in the east. Numerous statements made about not targeting civilian infrastructure, avoiding civilian casualties, of course, blah, blah, la, la. Defense Ministry briefing also shared, by the way, just in case you guys were wondering, like, not only has Russia engaged in indiscriminate shelling of multiple cities, they're also attacking humanitarian aid and denying Ukraine the ability to form humanitarian corridors to try to get people to extraction. In fact, I think there was actually a military official recently who said that he would surrender to Russia as long as they allowed him to enter the city and escape with all of the children. Like, as long as, which city was that? Like, if he could enter the city and like get all the children to safety, he would turn himself over to Russia afterwards. It was Mariupol? Gotcha. If anyone has a link to that, I'd like to show it. The real Kharkiv kid finder. An actual hero. I've heard people saying Azov's been destroyed or something in Mariupol. Yeah, apparently the Azov battalion has been like wiped or something like that. They fought, I think they were fighting Chechen forces, right? And apparently they've been sort of wiped, which as far as I'm concerned is a W for both Russia and Ukraine and is therefore just an unambiguous humanitarian good. Can't really argue with that. Yeah, Nazis killing Nazis. Oh, the Chechens are doing zero fighting. Don't believe the hype. Well, it's hard to know. Whatever the case is, it seems like the Azov battalion has at the very least lost significant operational capacity, and it will be they're no longer capable of fielding like a full like a front. You know, like they've taken significant losses, is what I have heard. Again, you know, fog of war, hard to know. Anyway, Defense Ministry briefing also. Oh, give me the link to that. The Mariupol Kid Finder, please. Defense Ministry briefing also shared a new official figure for the number of Russian soldiers killed. The second statement by Russian side during the course of the war said 1,351 were killed. Cope. Figure is far below Ukrainian and international estimates. This is probably like 1/10 of how many. Recently, I wish I had the links for all these, but I'm so lazy. Recently, I believe there was a Russian reporting outfit that briefly gave an actual and honest accounting of how many Russian soldiers had died since the invasion, and it was like 10,000 dead and like 15,000 wounded or something like that. I forget the exact numbers from Russia, and then immediately it was like deleted. Yeah, here we go. Literal actual hero, by the way. Police General Ebroskin offered himself as a hostage in exchange for the evacuation of children from Mariupol. Actual, genuine, literal hero. Today, in the completely destroyed city, there are many children left who, if not saved now, they will die in the coming days. Time is running out. I appeal to the Russian invaders. Give them the opportunity to take the children out of Mariupol. Instead of the still living children, I offer myself. Yes, I ask you to let me to Mariupol to collect the children and organize their removal. I need 3 days in the city. At the last checkpoint during the return journey with the children, I surrender. Abroskin addressed the Russian invaders. God damn. Casualty numbers you're talking about? Yeah, it was something like this. It was like very, very, very briefly. There was an outfit. Yeah, news outlet issued. Pro-Kremlin tabloid Komsomolskaya Pravda revealed on March 21st that nearly 10,000 Russian troops have been killed in Ukraine's war before hastily removing the info from its news portal. Later, the news outlet issued a statement saying that it had been hacked. Impossible to know the truth. Is this incompetence? Is this malicious, like, incompetence? Is it deliberate? Is it not? It's impossible to know. My guess is that it's dissidents who are deliberately doing this in order to undermine propaganda from the Kremlin. That's my guess. I don't know that. I have no way of proving it. I will never be able to prove it unless someone comes out and admits it, which I hope they do one day. That'd be pretty cool. But it's what I believe. Children were the root for Vladimir Putin's war. Yeah, this is like pretty grim stuff. If you guys want to go looking for evidence of the damage this war has done, yeah, I don't... Not to shy away from it, it's just, you can kind of get... You can kind of intuit what a lot of what I would have to say would be. Isn't it something like literally 1/2 of the children in Ukraine have been displaced at this point? Like 1/2 of all of the under 18s in Ukraine have been forced to leave their homes at this point. That might even be lowballing it. It's hard to know. It's hard to tell. Which half? I'm gonna guess the eastern half. If we have to separate the country into halves, I'm gonna say mostly the east half. Just a guess though. Look, horrors of war aside, there is some genuine good here. And the genuine good here is that Russia is huffing GIGA COPIUM. Just colossal amounts of weapons-grade copium. The idea that now they would be saying they had no intention of capturing... Okay, saying they didn't intend on capturing Kyiv is one thing. Okay, that's one thing. It's still a lie. Saying they never intended on capturing Kharkiv. Kharkiv. Oh, really? Yeah, you were never hoping to capture that one, huh? Yeah? Okay. Okay. You can talk about, attacking Kyiv as a way of, like, distracting them and disrupting operational capabilities, but trying to pretend that you weren't trying to capture Kharkiv, honestly, ridiculous. Absolutely astonishing. Phenomenal, legit, like, phenomenal stuff right there. This is a massive sign of weakness on the part of the Russian government, and I think that this is a very positive sign for the future of this conflict. Unless this is some kind of 4D chess misdirection before they unveil the, like, Evangelion mechas they're going to be deploying in the Donbass region, this seems to me like an indication that they have given up on the possibility of winning a full, like, conquest of Ukraine, which was undeniably their original goal. It seems like they've given up on it. And maybe not given up, but at the very least, they're like, it's not something they're confident they're going to be able to achieve. Which is very, very, very funny. They literally pushed from east to Kiev, but never wanted to capture it. Yes. Hey, bro, just trust me, bro. Just trust me. We committed thousands of armored vehicles on two fronts from the north and from the east to encircle Kiev, and committed a massive shelling campaign of it. Had a 40-mile-long convoy headed to Kiev. Bro, it was just to distract them, bro. Bro, we were just Bro, we traveled across 200 miles of Ukrainian marshland for the memes, bro. Oh yeah, Kharkiv. We just, lost hundreds of soldiers fighting a gritty block-by-block battle for a month for fun, bro. Like, Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, okay. It was just a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Sanctions see Russians panic buy antidepressant sleeping pills. Jesus, that's grim. Russians have rushed to stock up on antidepressant sleeping pills and contraceptives, among other products. Data released with people buying a month worth of medicine just in 2 weeks. Official opinions was most Russians support Putin's decision to send troops in. Social media interviews and anecdotal data suggest many Russians have been distressed by the severity of the sanctions. It's really, really, really difficult to trust any official information on what support for Putin is, because it's a dictatorship and Putin arrests and kills dissidents pretty often. So it's unfortunate because from a sociological perspective, what I want is very concrete polling data, but it's not like we have Reuters over there conducting independent polling. The polling that's done in Russia is done by Russia. So it's really, really, really difficult to look at the numbers there and go oh yes, of course. Well, obviously that's reliable, Russian forces no longer have full control of Kherson. Yeah, I heard that as well. Phenomenal stuff, really. Ukraine has been just kicking them to the curb. Just kicking them to the curb. Fantastic stuff. Memes aside, I don't think Ukraine is going to keep all its territory before the war. So the really big question here is, let's assume a positive scenario in which Russia is beaten back. No nuclear involvement. Ukraine is successful in recapturing most of its territory. The real question for me would be, what about the Donbass region? Because I imagine that after, imagine you're Zelensky, you're Ukraine, right? Imagine that after 8 years of proxy war in the Donbass region, you are invaded by the largest country on the planet, and you win. If I was Ukraine, I would reconquer. I would reduce this part of the Donbass to ash. Not necessarily because that's the best thing to do, but because, holy shit, can you imagine them, after beating back Russia, can you imagine them returning to, the line of conflict in 2014, and then going okay, and now the rest of this can continue being a Russian separatist hellhole? Yeah, I don't know. I see, there are three possibilities here. One of them, I'll talk about Crimea in a second. One of them is that Ukraine hopped up on blood, marches east, and reconquers every square inch of dirt up to the border. This would be difficult, but possible, I think, if they manage to beat Russia back everywhere else. That's one. Especially since I'm pretty sure that recently Zelensky made a plea for more weapons from the West because they have adequate defensive capabilities, but they don't have adequate offensive capabilities, which suggests to me that right now the Ukrainian brass aren't just thinking about defending their cities, but reconquering territory that Russia currently occupies. I just pray to God they don't lose their marbles and decide to move within the Russian border, because if they do, we're going to have an entirely separate set of problems on our hands. That would be an inadvisable decision for a variety of reasons. It would make them look very bad historically. I think that's highly unrealistic. Yes, it is, and I really hope it doesn't happen. Anyway, that's one possibility. A second possibility is that Ukraine returns to the previous line of conflict and just goes back to the status quo. This doesn't seem likely to me. And that the third is that essentially Russia and Ukraine agree to a ceasefire, and the Donbass region turns into the DMZ, basically. Essentially, it becomes as policed and as watched on both borders as the North-South Korean border, where there are guard outposts every 5 feet along this massive border. And that everyone inside either lives essentially in a concentration camp or they leave, and it just turns into like like millions of acres. Is it million? I think this might be millions of acres. It's Ukraine's pretty big, like a huge amount of territory, just being like left it's completely empty, which is possible. You know, this could end up being like the new Iron Curtain, I guess. Oh, if Ukraine does want to join NATO, they can't have any conflicts going on within their borders, which makes me think that they're going to cede Crimea to Russia as part of their ceasefire. That's a feeling. In fact, they might make a trade, the Donbass region for Crimea officially being recognized as part of Russia, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the people in Crimea were always the most politically affiliated with Russia. This is often overstated by tankies and Russian apologists, but it is true just broadly. It's possible Ukraine wouldn't think it's worth the effort, and that would allow them potentially to get NATO membership in the future, because if they recognize Crimea as part of Russia, the rest of the world probably would as well, and that would mean it's no longer a conflict within their borders. As for the Donbass region, if they could get that in a concession, the thing that I would be curious about is like, what happens if Russia goes back to its old game and they just continue like funding secessionists in the Donbass region after the cessation of arms? Like, what does Ukraine just like do the whole fuck around, find out shit and just invade? Like what? Like what? Okay, listen. Also, hi Shu. Listen, new plan, guys. Okay, new plan. All right. We establish a new Donbass region within the Russian border. It's brilliant. Ukraine reconquers the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, okay? Declares a special military operation in Western Russia, and then after 8 years of fighting and conflict, declares these areas breakaway states that are actually ethnically Ukrainian. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's the only way out. It's the only way forward. In all seriousness, though, the problem with any kind of like ceasefire in the region is that Putin as a leader is just fundamentally untrustworthy, you know? Like there's no reason to ever believe that any cessation of violence would like be respected by Russia's side. So it's really difficult to imagine like peace without Putin being suicided in the back of the head. I don't know. It's very difficult for me to imagine like genuine peace in the region, no matter what happens to Russia, unless Putin dies. Like I understand that sounds hyperbolic, but like it doesn't not. Can you guys imagine after everything Russia has done that it would respect a ceasefire? They had a ceasefire back in like 2014. They had Minsk 1 and 2, and they just ignored both of them and kept funding secessionist groups in the Donbass region. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know.